And the NEPA officials that are already collecting salary from government or from whatever institution that is paying them are now going back into the system, collecting money from people so that people can continue to bypass, are also failing ethically. So at the root of all this thing is ethics. Is it Tinubu that will come and pay your NEPA bills? Is it Tinubu that told you to bypass? It's an evil thing. Okay? So this is an appeal to Nigerians. Number one, pay your bills. Pay it. You don't pay bills in Nigeria, but you go abroad, you pay bills. It doesn't make any sense. There are two sides to city of Ibadan. The part where I live in is the part that you might want to consider the civil servant end of Ibadan. So we have the University College Hospital, UCH, at the same place. We have the State Secretariat there also, the headquarters, the governor's office is there. And then we also have the University of Ibadan on that same stretch of road. At the other side of Ibadan, place is the Okeado end. You have the Nigerian Tribune there. That was where Chief Obafemi Awolowo used to have his house. And then we also have the Dugbe Business District and so on and so forth. Recently, I was at the other side of Ibadan because I live and I work on this side of Ibadan, the civil servant side of Ibadan. So I was at the other side to see somebody, to see a lawyer. And this gentleman was telling me that he had so much to do as far as his work was concerned, but he couldn't do them because there was no power supply. And he probably didn't make enough money to keep his generator working all day. So he has to do printing, he has to do some work on the system, but there was no light. You know, as he was speaking, I turned to the other side because he lives on one end of Okeado, and then at the other end, I turned to the other end and I saw the vast landmass of people living at that side. That part of Ibadan is a part where, that's the real part of Ibadan. It's the part where ordinary people live by doing business. And it just occurred to me that this whole space that I was looking at, there was no light. There was no power supply. NEPA had failed these people. The whole place was not productive. Because if the lawyer cannot produce, he cannot print, he cannot write his defense or prosecution, whatever he needs to do his business, then every other person, whether you call them the iron bender, the blacksmith, the welder, whoever they are unable to do their business. The only people who are probably working in Ibadan, working 24 hours, are the transporters, because they don't live off electricity. They use fuel and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, you find a whole city plunged in darkness. A whole city non-productive. Men wake up, they go to work from 8 to 4 p.m. or 6 p.m. They are unable to do nothing. In this video, I want to call out NEPA and I want to plead with them. NEPA, please give us light. That is just it. Okay, so I understand that they bear the name PHCN, Power Holding Company of Nigeria. But I didn't grow up knowing them as PHCN. I knew them as NEPA. So that's what I'm going to call them. They know themselves. NEPA, give us light. And I'm not saying give us power supply. Power supply is big English. Give us light. F1 a dark major. That is my cry. And I'm making this video I'm going to accentuate it with some stories so that we can get what the magnitude of the problem. Recently, a friend visited me and we got to talk. I wanted to know how he's doing and so on. His family, his children, everything. He's fine. The only problem, of course, is that he's a Christian. He has to live by biblical standard. Yes, that's what I teach the people that I know, people under my ministry. That's what I teach them. People, as much as possible, let us live by biblical standard. Perhaps one day our light will shine. We'll be able to affect the community. But because this brother is living by biblical standard, he has been suffering for 2 years. He has not been without light. What happened? I will explain. Some 2, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, the Nigerian parliament passed a bill and made it clear to NEPA that NEPA must not bill Nigerians on fixed billing anymore. They said that they should do everything to ensure that Nigerians pay as they use power supply. And so NEPA did what any other business person will do. They went to the international community, they mass produced meters. I know it because they brought it to the flat I was renting then at Akobo Ibadan. They brought it. They mass produced meters and they brought it to every home. So what did they do? They handed over meters to each home and said, look, pay as you use. They even made it easy in such a way that the cost of the meter had a certain amount. In those days, I think we were going to pay some like 55 or 65,000 naira for the meter. What NEPA did was they spread the cost of that meter over 2 years so that every time you buy credit, say you want to buy credit of 3,000 units for your meter, NEPA takes 2,000 naira or 1,002 out of it as cost of meter. So a wise person will buy his units and then he will also add the costs to it. And it all seemed fine and good. Everybody was happy. Okay, we're no longer paying fixed charges. We're now paying as we were using power. Fine, good. And the truth of the matter is that in this story that I'm going to tell, NEPA has no blame. Or perhaps they do. We'll find out. Now, when these meters were handed over to Nigerians, Nigerians began to use NEPA. But this brother that visited me and told me, he said what happened in his own compound, in his own building, was that the people got tired of paying for NEPA bill. They got tired of paying. And what they did was they called a local electrician who bypassed their meter. Okay. And in the process of bypassing their meter, the people now use power free. This brother approached the people who were behind it in his compound and said, what you did is wrong. Put back the meter and let us pay as we use. They said, not equal you. Some people are using fridge in their houses. It's difficult to calculate what anybody is using. Some people are paying for the electricity, some other people are using. So the best thing is let's cuckoo bypass. And they bypass. And the brother said, I cannot be party to what you're doing. And he removed his own flat. He removed his flat from the meter. So that for the past 2 years, this brother, in fact, 2 years plus, this brother has been without power in his flat, in his room. No lights. Okay? And everybody goes on. Now, I asked, I said, have you spoken to the NEPA officials about it? He said that it is difficult to even approach NEPA officials because from what he observes, and this is where NEPA has fault, but what he observed is that NEPA is aware that not just his flat, but about 90% of the meters that were distributed, at least to his area, all of those meters have been bypassed. They are aware of this and they do nothing. In fact, he claims that when some of these NEPA officials need money, they come to the area and they begin to do ogboju. We're going to cut your light. We're going to cut your light. The people don't put money together. They give them and the NEPA people go away. How true that is, I don't know, but that is what is alleged. Okay? So that is the story of this brother. The brother has not been without light has been without light for 2 years and it is counting. Now let's compare that story with something else that happened. A brother, again another brother in my local church, who schooled in Cotonou, Benin Republic, told me his experience with a power supply system in that country. Now, this is what happens. Nigeria provides power to some part of Benin, some part of Niger, and I think probably even to some part of Chad. Somebody that I know that works in NEPA says that NEPA transmits some 30% of the total power that is produced in Nigeria to its neighbors. The remaining 70% is consumed by Nigeria. This brother went on to tell me that the amount of money they earn from the 30% that they produce to our neighbors is a lot more than what they get from the 70% they give Nigerians. Why? Because Nigerians are not paying for light. That's the truth. Okay? So this brother went to Cotonou to school, and they were in their, they usually don't have very good hostels, so you have to rent hostels outside the school. So they were living there, and one day, their own NEPA officials, their own power supply officials came to their compound and told them that they noticed a spike, a hike in the amount of power that they are using, that students are using in the compound. Say, I hope somebody has not brought in power, electricity, and is tapping your power electricity, illegally. Then they looked around and found out that some students have begun to use hot plate, and that is probably what caused it. But what happened is they said in Cotonou, you have your meter reading, you pay NEPA. When their NEPA comes, you pay your units. For the units you use, you pay. The reason is because the power that Cotonou or Benin Republic is using, they are also paying Nigeria for it. Okay, so they cannot afford for their people to use power without paying for it. Okay, so you can see the situation that we find ourselves. Okay, that number one, the citizens have their fault. Number two, NEPA people also have their fault. So that in spite of the fact that the government succeeded in making the power supply for PHCN provide meters to Nigerians, Nigerians have bypassed. In fact, I spoke to two people. Two of them live in highbrow areas in Ibadan. One of them said that he found out that virtually everybody, highbrow area, that means people who can afford living well, that everybody had bypassed their meter. Another person who told me, he said he lives in Osun State. Okay, he said the same thing. He lives somewhere, everybody had bypassed NEPA. Their meter. Okay, so apparently NEPA has their fault. Nigerian people have their fault. NEPA can tell if there's a dip in the power usage of a particular area. They can tell, and they can tell when people have begun to bypass. But they notice this thing, just like the people in Cotonou. They notice it, but they keep quiet. And they keep quiet because they know that somehow that area becomes a place where they can illegally get money. Now, let's now go to the implication of a country without power supply. A country that doesn't have, I've mentioned it before, but it's plain and simple. A country that does not have power, that does not have electricity, is not going to be productive. Our industries are going to be running on generator. Okay, and then the cost of producing anything at all is going to go up, because the person who buys generator to produce an item will divide the cost of fuel, or who buys fuel will distribute the cost of the fuel all over those items, and then the cost of those items will go up. Okay, every other thing will be affected. The health situation will be affected. There are some places, some machines in the hospital that must run on 24 hours power supply. There's a friend of mine that is into IVF. Okay, they have to store the sperms and the ovaries of both the man and the woman respectively. Okay, and he said, look, we can't even put any of our systems on NEPA. They have to be on generator 24 hours, 24/7. And then we now have a new phenomenon of inverters. Inverters are good. The only problem is that we cannot afford to have them en masse, because then we fill the whole place with the poison of lead acid, or of lead acid batteries, or batteries all over, or lithium batteries. And all of these things have side effects. So the best thing still remains that we get the government to give the Nigerian people power supply so that we can be productive. And a country that is not productive will eventually see the effect. Now, we are all complaining. And thankfully, I have not joined anybody to complain, because I know where the problem is coming from. We are all complaining things are expensive. We are all complaining that cost of food has gone up. Now, the cost of things will continue. There will continue to be inflation as long as this country is not producing. That's as simple. It's a simple arithmetic. It's something that goes round. What is sustaining Nigeria presently is the oil we are deriving from the South. The minute oil dries up, we're not going to have extra revenue anymore. Okay? And then somehow we're going to begin to rethink how to make this economy work. I've been reading Awolowo, and how did Awolowo sponsor the economic revolution of 1952 to 1959? How did he do it? It was through agriculture, through two items alone: cocoa, palm kernel. Just those two. And so, as the farmers were going to the farm and producing their cocoa, and government was helping them to buy them and export them, the Western region was earning good money in the process. The same thing goes with palm kernel, to them earning very, very good money in the process. The economy of the Western region was rejigged to the point that Awolowo and the Action Group began to even tax women, not just men who were working. They were taxing women to pay tax. And all of those monies were being channeled into the economy, with almost 35% of their earning going into free education alone. Almost 35%. The point I'm trying to make is that money doesn't fall from heaven. Money in a system is a cycle. It's production that gives money to a system. Okay? If we're not producing, if we're not doing something, if the average man wakes up in the morning from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., he cannot do anything. He can't do anything. Then he has nothing to sell, and then to bring in money into his pockets. And we will not be able to do anything as long as there is no light. As long as NEPA does not give us light. Okay? And you would notice that at the root of all of this thing is just basic ethics. People committed to doing the right thing. Because this brother is without light for 2 years because he is committed to doing the right thing. He's ready to suffer, to doing the right thing. A commitment towards doing the right thing. The simple thing the Nigerian citizens should do, simple, is when you are connected to NEPA, please don't bypass. And if you have bypassed, please reconnect and begin to pay NEPA bills. Because if you do not pay NEPA bills, then NEPA will not be able to pay for their investment, both in the meter they had bought. They will not be able to pay their staffs, and they will not be able to do more. They will not be able to even provide more electricity to other parts of Nigeria that have no light. And then the thing goes round. The thing goes round. And the NEPA officials that are already collecting salary from government or from whatever institution that is paying them are now going back into the system, collecting money from people so that people can continue to bypass, are also failing ethically. So at the root of all this thing is ethics. And sometimes I wonder what kind of education we claim to get when we get into the system, out of the university or out of any educational system we went to, and we begin to cut corners. I wonder, I can't wrap my head around it. Okay, because I understand that there are countries that don't name the name of Jesus, they don't go to mosque, but they have enough education to know, they are wise enough to know to do the right thing. What kind of education do you gain and you are unable to do the right thing. And then when we say, let us solve this problem, Nigerians say they want to japa. Ja to where? To where? Exactly. Because from the records that I have, in fact, I was listening to somebody recently. He's a medical doctor in Canada, and he was talking about the fact that he's rounding up his stay in Canada. He cannot retire in Canada. Where are you gying to? Anywhere you go to, you come back. You will. Any Nigerian, especially those of us who are born in Nigeria, anywhere you go to, you will come back. And then you come back to the mess, except we look for a way to fix it. The places you are gying to, those economies are run by, you listen to Nigerians that they will talk, I have bills to pay, I have bills to pay. There's no way you can not pay for electricity. You pay for electricity, you pay for water. I even hear you pay in the UK, you pay for television, for watching television. You pay for everything. You pay your bills at the end of the month or at the end of the week, you pay your bills. So why do we come to Nigeria and we cut corners? Why do we do that? If you don't pay the bills, if you don't pay your taxes, if you don't pay for NEPA bill, if you don't pay for the water, those systems cannot work. What ruined NITEL? It was because Nigerians were calling and they were not paying their bills. It ruined it. Now we have our, what they call GSM. And the GSMs are working. Why? Because you pay as you use it. You buy your credit first before. And there's no way you can bypass GSM. It's not possible. So the system is working. And everybody is happy. Because at any point I can call. In fact, the whole internet revolution is based on the fact that you pay your bills as you use it. So why can we not pay for NEPA? Why? Why will a young family, a man, his wife, and 2 children be plunged in darkness for 2 years because everybody in that compound, not that compound alone, in that neighborhood decided not to pay for NEPA? Why? And you want Nigeria to get better. Is it Tinubu that will come and pay your NEPA bills? Is it Tinubu that told you to bypass? It's an evil thing. Okay? So this is an appeal to Nigerians. Number one, pay your bills. Pay it. You don't pay bills in Nigeria, but you go abroad, you pay bills. It doesn't make any sense. You pay your bills in abroad, and then life is good. Why don't you pay your bills here so that life will be good for you? So pay your bills, whatever those bills are. That's the first one. Then NEPA, please, by all means, trace all the compounds everywhere people are bypassing, trace them and penalize them. I understand people pay as much as 350,000 for bypassing. Penalize them. Okay, get people arrested, put people in prison for doing the wrong thing, and stop collecting egunje from these people. Let us have light. Let us have light. Okay? And recently, I was in Lagos. And I saw that there's a difference between Band A and Band A. I thought that here in Ibadan, we're on Band A. Irony. In Lagos, Band A is Band A. They get between 22 hours to 24 hours electricity. My friend paid 50,000 naira to get 240 units of electricity in Lagos on true Band A, genuine Band A. And so I also noticed that NEPA is beginning to realize that, okay, areas that have bypassed, areas that have decided not to be paying their bills, what do? They now change power, they supply powers to areas that can pay the bills. So they get their money here in Nigeria. But you see, it's not helping because it is not just the highbrow areas that can pay for Band A that are producing in Nigeria. All of us are. All of us are. And you see, my mindset behind production has changed. Because, see, I'll tell you a story. Very simple, straight. I've been telling stories. I'll end with one. I put inverter in my house. I have been having 24 hours electricity. The only thing I use NEPA to do is to pump water. But every other thing I've been enjoying it thoroughly. And I can wake up in the middle of the night, write an article or read. Okay, I can wake up in the middle of the night, start editing my videos. I mean, my production has heightened. It has. All these videos I'm producing is because I have electricity. My neighbors, sometimes they come in to charge phone and things like that. I am productive. You can imagine the whole compound, the whole area enjoying 24 hours per, in fact, even just 10 hours. A neighbor came recently, the woman came from abroad, an old grandma. She lives in my compound, and the woman has been complaining. No light, no light, no light. When she saw my inverter, look, when I have money, I will install 1 or 2 like that. I could buy a car, but I decided to put inverter in my house so that I can have light and can be productive. And as I am being productive, I will be able to earn money and that will one day buy the car and even buy very, very good cars and then add to the Nigerian society. In those days, when I didn't have inverter, it could take me 2 weeks to edit a video. 2 weeks. I will have to go to a supermarket that's just been set up in my neighborhood. I'll go there to edit my videos. Sometimes I won't finish. I will stop and then come back again the next. But today I don't have to do that because there is power supply. Now, can you imagine when everybody has that? I'm enjoying them now because my batteries are still, they're still smiling. Very soon, by the time the battery runs out now, I go back to square one or buy a new battery. And you can imagine, we're ready to pay our bills. But by all means, Nigerians, pay your bills. NEPA officials, stop all this cutting off these corners. Nigerians, do the right thing. The thing will go round. It will go round. If we do the right thing, eventually it will go round. Okay? And then government will be able to put in, why don't we have, for example, why don't we have a functioning society? Simply because one of the key areas that runs the Nigerian society, which is petroleum, has been jeopardized. The Nigerian government has 3 or 4 refineries. None of them are producing. Dangote has just set up his refinery. Nigerians find it more profitable to sell crude to people abroad so that we can fetch in oil, petrol, than to give Dangote, who is a Nigerian. And Dangote is there, he's complaining. And nobody is looking at the fact that this thing will go round. It makes sense that, look, when Nigeria produces crude, you give Dangote first. And then Dangote can produce fuel so that Nigerians can have fuel at a subsidized rate. No, Nigerians will sell crude oil abroad first. And then they will say, Dangote, wait. And then when they have provided all their exporting, whatever, then they now give Dangote something. That's what is happening. And then you say the country should move forward. So the ball is in our hands. Let's do something. I personally believe that if we all begin to do the right thing in our little corners, the whole thing will go round. Okay? And the country will get better. A developed society, a working economy is not rocket science anywhere. It's just doing basic things. Pay your bills. Government officials, do the right things. Don't cut corners. Don't cut corners. My name is Deji Yesufu. I pastor Providence Reformed Baptist Church in Ibadan. Here, we're situated at the University of Ibadan. If you want to get to know more about us, get in touch with us at dejix@gmail.com. Thank you very much for watching. By the way, please subscribe to my channel and share this video. Thank you.